Okay, Andrea, my first question for you is this. For most women that I encountered in the Denver music circuit, most of them went to the cover clubs. I saw you hanging out DAV, Whiskey Bills, the Ogden. What drew you to it?
Um, I loved the music and I loved the people were awesome. They were all encompassing and friendly enough, to where you had direct access to them and you could go see their show and then go hang out with them afterwards and party. And so they were cool people. It was a cool environment. It was awesome music. And yeah, I honestly didn't know. I remember Wish Doctor, but I don't think I ever saw a show of theirs. But
Okay.
truly, I really like original music better than cover music for sure, even
Right,
still to this day.
right. Okay. As I said, it's just like you were a rarity with women. I would go to Wish Doctor shows to pass out depth chart flyers. They're like, here, come see my show.
Hmm.
Or when I was with my Metallica cover band, I went to Kinko's print up flyers one day. There was a woman, there was a woman there. I'm like, here, I'm in a Metallica tribute band. Come see me play. She actually showed up. I
Yeah.
was, I was, I was just like, oh wow, this stuff actually worked. But
Yeah.
eh, but you, you know, you're a rarity. That also leads me to think, when did you start photography and when did you start doing stuff for Riff Magazine, Throw Culture? How did that all go about?
So I turned 21 in 99.
Okay.
And so before that, I didn't have any access to the club scene or the bars or a little bit actually. When I was like 14, 15, I was friends with a girl who her brother was in the psychedelic zombies. And
Okay.
then I also knew the group of the hippie werewolves.
Right.
And then there was a band, Agents of Chaos, that I met in high school.
Right.
And then when I turned 21, my girlfriend met Mark Grabowski. And
Right.
then we started frequenting Hollywoods of Legends of Hollywood. Was that what it was? Legends of Hollywood.
No, it was Hollywood Legends, but
There
no,
you go.
you were
Hollywood
close.
Legends, Ladies Night Out, Hollywood Legends with Uncle Nasty. And me and my girlfriend worked at a portrait studio for families and children. And we had just heard that Greg and his wife had their second son. And so we were like, we're going to go to the club and we're going to bring him some coupons and some cigars and just see if we can meet him and become friends with him. And we ended up hanging out with him and Chris Romero and the drummer from Sick in the limousine in front of Hollywood Legends.
Right.
So,
Okay.
yeah, so then my girlfriend, because we were photographers together in the, studio corporate world, and then we started meeting photographer or bands, we just started, showing up with cameras and then, becoming friends and doing free photo shoots, for band sessions.
Cool. Cool. Okay. Now that rolls me into my next topic. Um, which venues was everyone photography? Were they photography friendly, or was there some places like, no, you can't do that? Did you bump into anybody that caused you?
So on the lower key scale, like local bands and stuff, as long as you had, backstage pass, photo pass from the band, then you were totally fine. And there weren't really limitations. So I started shooting some shows for Throat Culture.
Right.
And I got to photograph Lacuna Coil and meet them, and that was at the Bluebird. And it was pretty open, like, take as many photos as you want for as long as you want. And then I started with Riff Music Magazine in about 2002. And then we would, go and shoot national shows. So um, I got to meet Typo Negative and Jack White and Saliva. And of course, with that, you had to sign a contract and you had to oblige by, they would cart you in with a group of photographers and you could shoot like the first three songs and
Right.
then they'd kick you out. And you
Okay.
had to sign off, where you were using the photos and who owned them for copyright and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
So
Now, okay. Tell me from a woman's perspective, what was it like to meet Peter Steele?
I thought it was very interesting. He was very intriguing. He was very quiet. And so I really just loved to sit on the buses and watch and observe, kind of as a photographer, that's what you do. Um, I got to take pictures of them hanging out on the bus while the journalists that I worked with did all the questions and stuff like that. And it was really awesome. What was crazy was I was so young and naive that I
Mhm.
honestly didn't even know how big these people were that I was talking to and hanging out with.
Sure.
And
Sure.
like I never had the starstruckness of, thinking that they were any bigger than just, any other person.
Right.
So I got to hang out in the back of the bus with Spider from Power Man
Mhm.
5000. And it was just me, him, and the journalist, Tammy, that I worked with. And I remember he was like, no photos, just hang out. And we just hung out and chilled. And he was really, cool and real about everything he talked about. So it was very
Right.
fascinating indeed.
Right. Okay. Now that rolls. Now let's go ahead and take the photographer hat off and let's just put the put the put the fan on. Which venues to you were the better ones or the ones that you were like, okay, I'm only really here for the band?
Oh my gosh. Well, so I frequented a lot of the venues. The first one that I definitely started out at was Buffalo Rose. And
Right.
that was amazing because we, went with Corruption while they opened up for like Flotsam and Jetsam.
I was there.
And yeah, gosh, few other I can't recall. I'm sure you know them, but it was amazing because we would be backstage and we would be like the roadies and just get fed unlimited alcohol. So
Right.
that was amazing. Pinkies, I'm kind of local to that area. I grew up here in Westminster, so I know, so many people that frequented Pinkies, and I actually spent my 21st birthday there. My mom and her boyfriend and all her friends hung out there and played pool. And I remember on my 21st birthday, we went there to hang out with them a little bit. And, I met my stepdad there. And so I remember when it went straight from a pool hall and transitioned over to bringing in the live bands and everything like that.
Right.
Oh, that was fun. And it was cool because it was like 10 minutes away from my house. So,
Right.
that was awesome. Then talked about Hollywood Legends. That was, our favorite place to go for dance club, and it was close, but it always closed down as well.
Right.
Isle Park Saloon was a favorite. Went there a lot. Definitely, going there was definitely for the bands. That's why I was there was because of who was playing there.
Right.
Mostly, frequented with Rogue up there. I remember when Bill Trell brought in, I'm pretty sure he was helping with this, where he brought in Nuno Betancourt,
Right.
the Extreme guys, to play
Hmm.
their acoustic set. So that was amazing. Of course, Sportsfield rocks um, every other weekend up there. And then
Hmm.
that was, of course, the bands that, were at the DAV played the Sportsfield Rocks.
Right.
So that was, an all night guaranteed party.
Right.
I love the Ogden, the Bluebird, the Gothic. Those were definitely the best venues for, the stage and the sound and the visual. And
Right.
it was amazing how, the bands packed those houses every weekend. You
Right.
and my favorite part was, one of the first shows I went to at the Ogden was with Corruption and Rogue, and I believe Typhoid Mary and Tread and all them played that night, and that's when we made a lot of connections. And it was every time you went to a show, you left
Right.
with a stack of tickets to like the next
Mhm.
shows for every weekend in the next month.
Right. Of course. Yeah.
So,
Well, one thing I'll give NIPP credit for, they didn't do the pay to play,
mhm,
thing for bands, to where bands had to pay like a grand up front, and then they had a certain set of tickets to make their money back, kind of like the Milwaukee Metal Fest. So I give them credit for that.
yeah,
But I will, I will say that without Rogan Corruption and that show that you're talking about in '99,
hmm,
we none of us, none of the rest of the bands, including mine, would have a shot of playing those theaters.
yeah,
I will totally give credit where it's due there.
nice.
Um, and in your observance, because you've remained in the circuit, you know, because during this era we're talking about, this was before social media and camera phones took over our culture, for better or for worse.
Right,
Because without these gadgets, we're not doing this today.
right,
But I think there was an era, the era before there, before things, it was just like we were focused on the music, and going to see people and going to see bands. But in your experiences, because you and your husband Sean have this festival coming up, tell us more about that.
yeah. So, I mean, the live music circuit is still very much alive and well in Denver. And, we've made connections with a lot of people that have always been around in the past. We're working this festival with Zeth Padula, um, the drummer. He worked in Horse and good friends with Uncle Nasty and all them long time. And it's crazy because I've known him in the circuit forever, but I really only kind of met and connected with him in the last year.
Right.
So,
Okay.
but yeah, we were putting together a 3-day festival,
Okay.
um, 17 bands, and they're coming from all over the country. We've got bands from all the way up from Chicago to Lawrence, Kansas, to Albuquerque, Las Vegas. And it's awesome because, we went out to a festival in Las Vegas, and
Mhm.
it just so happened that Sean was connected with the promoter of this show, and
Mhm.
he was showing all the bands that he was booking, and they were bands from Europe and bands that had never played in the US before. And Sean was like, "Oh my God, I have to go. I have to see these bands." And, we had connections with the people. So, we went out there and we met this network of people that travel around and go to all these festivals. And we went to the one in Vegas twice now, and we're making travel plans now to go out there again at the end of January.
Right.
And we've been to the festival out Ripple Fest in Austin, Texas. And we have a friend that does it in Milwaukee or in Michigan. And so it just really inspired Sean that was like, we don't have anything like that here in Denver. And
Mhm.
why not? Let's do
Well,
it. Let's put it together. And we're really showcasing a lot of the Denver.
mhm.
It's considered doom, stoner doom, rock bands, but some are really heavy that you would think would be closer to like metal, and
Right.
speed doom. And then
Mhm.
others that are, slow and sludgy and, but
Mhm.
it's all just, it's such an amazing network of friends that we've made. And so we're bringing them now to Denver at Bar 404 in April. So,
Right.
yeah.
Okay. Okay. Since you went to Pinky's, I'm sure I saw you at least one deep freeze fest.
Okay.
Yeah. Because we had one that headlined Flotsam and Jetsam and Jag Panzer. We had one with Cephalic Carnage.
Okay.
I think I saw you at least one of those.
Yeah, I'm thinking maybe the cephalic carnage, but
Right. Okay. Well, the reason I bring that up is because festivals are a lot of work.
yeah.
And,
And
and go on.
I
Well,
never experienced or knew any part of it in the promotional world, back in the day. I just attended it. And so I never knew the politics and the booking process and stuff like that. So we're definitely learning. And
right.
yes, go on.
No, no, well, my thing is just that, this is obviously a couple of months away.
Mhm.
What are the challenges you and Sean have faced so far? You know, is it, our band saying we want to play a certain slot, or we're not going to go after one band or anything like that. Have you had those challenges yet?
We've had a few definite little challenges that we've had to work around to make sure that things were cohesive and worked for everybody for sure. But it's a collaboration. I think, and that's the way we're approaching it is that, the three of us are putting it together, but every band that is involved, has to be happy and collaborate as well.
Right.
And, we've learned because of talking with the other promoters in the other cities on like how they've done it as
Right.
opposed to how we do it. And, whether there's guarantees to the bands or, it's fun figuring it all out for sure.
Okay.
Um, but we haven't had any challenges that we haven't been able to overcome. We've
Right.
had a few bands say, we need to play this time instead of that time. And, can we work around with these other bands and whatnot? And it's been amazing that everybody has worked together and there's like no drama or there's no egos, there's no problems at all.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. I said for Deep Freeze Fest, that was a 1 day fest for me and Keith Spargo to deal with.
Okay.
It,
Yeah.
we had many a sleepless night just for, figure out what it is. Some say it's like your guys are doing a three, you're doing it as a three piece, and it'd be like, okay, if it was rough for me, how challenging is this for you? But it sounds like you guys are pretty on top of it.
Yeah, Sean's got great connections, and Zeth has been an amazing help, and it's cool because he's got his connections in the scene with the venues and the bands, to get a back line and all that kind of stuff. And then Sean's just got great connections with bands that everybody he's asked has willingly been like, hell yeah, we're on, man, we're there.
Sure.
And we've got, ticket sales from people in state as well as out of state, and lots of people planning to travel here for it. So we're feeling pretty good. It's going to be successful for sure. And we're putting together fun packages and things as far as like food and drink and
Right.
merchandise and stuff like that.
Okay. That rolls me to my next thing. The media end of things back when you started, because print media was still a thing back then.
Right.
When did you suspect that print media, it's not extinct yet, but when did like when Throw Culture, magazine and Riff magazine, now they both had websites, right?
Yeah.
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 And now do you see print media even existing 20 years from now?
Oh, definitely. I mean, I think so because people still like to have, that, paper in hand type thing. So, like, I still to this day, see bands that print posters and religiously flyer through the streets of Denver of all
Right.
of their shows, as well as other band shows, that they're affiliated with and stuff.
Mhm.
There's still a good handful of people that walk around and always have flyers on hand, to hand out. So that's still around. And then I think another part of what's around is that people, are creating like festival art, um,
Right.
show posters and stuff like that they're printing up and selling. Even bands. Like last year, there's this band Bongzilla that we
Hmm.
love, and I found this amazing poster art from an artist that we follow in the scene that created a tour poster for that band, and that was part of their merchandise that they sold at all the shows. And we have a few of those now, and even at that festival up in Las Vegas, it's Planet Desert Rock
Right.
weekend. He has shows or posters for like every night, as well as a full entire festival poster, and they go pretty well, and we love them, and we frame them, and they're our home decor now.
Right.
So I definitely think it'll be around.
Right.
It's
Okay.
photography, people love seeing that live shots of bands. So
Right. Now, in your experiences is just that, you've gone, how has social media in your eyes affected how bands promote, how they do business? What's your take on that?
So I think it's an amazing tool because you can reach people across the world with social media. You're
Right.
not stuck to the small bubble of the streets of your neighborhood. So it's definitely a very important tool and avenue for people to use,
Right.
I think. And so back in I saw in one of your topics about the internet in the 90s. I honestly didn't have anything to do with the internet until like I it was when my son was 13.
Okay.
So I would say that was close to like 2010 is
Wow.
when, I always, knew about the internet and had, AOL, but I didn't do anything with MySpace, and I didn't do anything personally with my own photography. Um,
Right.
so yeah, my first experience with internet really and social media was Facebook in 2010 because
Right.
my son joined it, and they're like, if your kids are on it, you got to be on it too. And so
Okay.
yeah, but I think it's an amazing thing and a tool for
Mhm.
fans like me because I can jump on the internet and I can see, hey, what shows are going on this weekend around town.
Right.
And
Now,
if management companies are doing a good enough job, and people who are booking these shows are doing a good enough job and, promoting it, then you can jump online and go, hey, what's going on tonight? And where can I go and see a live show?
right, sure. Now, okay, let's keep the mom hat on, for this next topic. What is social media, you as a parent, you know, has, it can be a friend and it can also be a foe. How can it be a foe for a kid?
Oh my gosh, for a million ways, because they don't disconnect, because, they constantly have their friends in their ears bothering them, and, just seeing those expectations of life out there that aren't real, and being able to
Sure.
depict what's real life and what's not, and knowing that some people just showcase perfection and instead of, what's really
Right,
real out there. So honestly, my kids like are not as on social media as I am. Uh,
sure.
I think, Facebook is definitely more like our age group kind of tool.
Right,
Instagram, I hear is more popular. I've never really been able to harness that myself, which
right,
is crazy because as a photographer, that's where I gravitate to post like my work and stuff like that. But yeah, I don't know. My kids are not on either. They do a little bit with like Snapchat and TikTok, which are both things that I don't do anything with. So
right.
yeah.
All right. Now, okay, this rolls on my next thing. You and I both, saw the Black Sabbath final show in Birmingham. We paid for it. We got the t-shirt, both of us.
Yes.
I'm convinced heavy metal is here to stay.
Oh
It's
yeah.
not a fad. But Mike, I have a twofold question for you.
Okay.
When it comes to heavy metal, live music, how much of a role will AI have in it for the upcoming generation? Your thought.
Well, unfortunately, I think it's going to have a huge role in it because, especially in different genres and stuff. I've been to a lot of different, shows, and maybe not so much with heavy metal. Heavy metal is always kind of, real and raw, and I don't know how much rock and roll people and metal people will gravitate towards that at all. I definitely see in like the rock and roll world of our friends that it's not supported. If they know that you have AI art, for your albums, it's very frowned upon.
Mhm.
If you're using AI imagery for, your backdrops during your live shows and stuff like that, it's very frowned upon for sure.
Right.
There's a lot of bands, that I love and follow. One I love Stick Figure. It's one of my
Mhm.
like soul musics, and we've been to a few shows at Red Rocks with theirs, and I'm feeling like I like their older stuff better than I like the newer stuff that they're doing because I really feel like all the newer stuff is very AI directed. Their art, their imagery on their videos, and everything like that. And I don't love it because being an artist, you collaborate with other artists, instead of taking away that job and the art from people. If you need art, you go to a graphic artist and you have them draw art for you, and that's what
Mhm.
we did with our show poster. We found an artist that we really loved his style and we commissioned him, and he drew up an amazing poster that was exactly our vision.
Right.
And we put money in his pocket, and then we can advertise that person every single time we show that picture and hopefully get him more work and stuff like that. So, I think it's kind of very selfish and I would
Right.
say a narcissistic behavior of musicians when they pull it all into themselves and I do all my music and I do all my production and I do all my art, and it's all computerized. So it's like they don't really
Right.
do it. A computer does it for them. So
Right. And have you and Patrick gotten encountered by bands that do this?
we definitely have. Yeah, it's out there, and you catch them, and sometimes people bands fall to it because it's easy, it's
Right.
convenient, it's cheap. you
Mhm.
but that's it. You get what you pay for, and that's what I feel as an artist, as a photographer. You
Mhm.
and AI, they talk about it taking over the photography world as well because people can create whatever picture they want, they can think of,
Right.
and but I feel like it's not going to take over. Just like, there was Photoshop and it totally bombed, and people
Mhm.
don't love the Photoshopped look. They want organic and real and natural. So,
Right. That's going to roll to my last part because the upcoming Zoom events like like the Fat City and Marist the Great, we're going to talk about that at those dates. I wanted to save you for that.
hey,
What you had to say for those. But my last one for you, live music in the year 2100. What do you see it being like?
so it's harder to get people out. It's very different. That the drinking partiness isn't really out there anymore. People are a lot more low key.
Mhm.
So it's a struggle, to get people out there, but it's definitely still out there. So I just think people just need to collaborate and come up with ideas that works for everybody to keep it alive
Right.
and There's still the original music is out there and it's awesome.
Mhm.
In Denver, there's a lot of the tribute bands and the cover bands and stuff, and they do pretty good. But um, I think live music's important because I know so many people that, it brings people together. You meet people, you find your community, just find people that you're like-minded with. And with the internet, you can be good friends with them. Like, Sean has met people that live in North Carolina and live in Grand
Mhm.
Rapids, Michigan, and he's like best friends with them, and they talk every day, and they have, friendships that they can confide in each other and,
Mhm.
talk about things that, they just
Mhm.
want to. So, it's amazing that,
Right.
I think live shows bring people together, and so it's got to stick around. So if you don't go to live shows, get your ass out there and go to live shows.
Right. Yeah, okay. The way I'm seeing the year 2100, I'm
Yeah,
seeing it as in the corporate world, AI, AI and very selfish like solo artists will use AI like a whore.
yeah,
But I think there's going to be those that feel like you, Sean, and me. We want the human factor. And I think I see a big divide in the year 2100 between AI music and non AI music, in
yeah,
the entertainment world. I don't know how this goes in terms of money, but I think there's going to be people that are going to wish they were us in the era we were in. And
right,
somebody saying, we were the last great generation to experience live music the way it was supposed to. And
yeah,
while it still exists to this day, and other whatnots, I do feel AI has taken a little bit of the personal touch off, personally to me.
yeah. It definitely has. Yeah, and
Right.
like I said, I've been to shows where they rely heavily on that, and you see two guys on stage pressing buttons and making a whole lot of noise and music. And, it sounds good to listen to, but it's not fun to watch.
Right.
So, like you said, where's the money in that? If they're writing music and they're throwing it out on platforms that's free to listen to and download and all that, and
Right.
nobody wants to come to your show and watch your performance because it's not a performance, it's boring. You know,
Right.
yeah, where is their money in that? How would they survive, really?
Right. Okay. Now this just occurred to me. Last topic. A band called Horse. Greg's band.
Mhm.
One of the guys in the band, whether it was Donnie or Doug, I'm not sure. They had a wag, wife or girlfriend. She always wore a cowboy hat and she was blonde and tall. You know who she was.
Oh yeah, I'm good friends with her. So
You,
yeah,
you
that would be Doug, I believe, and his wife Liz.
okay? So that's Liz. I always
Because
wondered.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
like a confession. When I went and saw horse shows, I spent most of my time looking at Liz.
Um, she's a beautiful woman.
Um, I did,
She's
I did not have
very fun and unique. And so, fun story.
a.
I am friends and in contact with Doug and Liz, currently. About a year ago in September, this, scene that we're all friends with and everything, we saw this new band that Ripple Music had signed, and it's Luna Soul. And I look at the picture and I'm like, that's Doug Tackett, dude. Like, what the hell? Luna Soul is signed with Ripple Music, and that's Doug and Zeth. And then we got to meet their lead singer, Dave, out in Vegas. And Doug has actually stepped away from the band since. And he's starting something else with other people and whatnot. So, yeah, we're still really good friends with them. And we were in Vegas with them last February and hang out with them a lot. Every show Luna Soul plays at. I think they're one of our top scene live bands this year.
Okay. All
So,
right. Oh yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
She's
she was
awesome. She's so fun. She's always got that kind of like Stevie Nicks look, very
a.
unique and mystical.
I'm not gonna lie. She's one of the easier women I've had to look at over the years.
Well, I'm sure.